Hello everyone, I hope you've had a great day so far and that you're doing well. For this video we'll be going through a unboxing and review of a Beast Weaponizer 2-pack, and this one is Wheeljack and Rhinox. And obviously all of this is from the Transformers Rise of the Beasts movie, which is coming out sometime in the near future. So moving on to the second Beast Weaponizer 2-pack that I have. Here we have Wheeljack and Rhinox on the front of the packaging. So Rhinox is pretty much a bit of a bonus item in that he is just a redeco of the original single pack of the Beast Battlemasters Rhinox. This Wheeljack, however, is somewhat new. Now, it's definitely not a deluxe, but I don't know, maybe equivalent to a warrior cloth? Time will tell. Front of the box. So Wheeljack Rhinox and some associated imagery, which is very nice. Another shot of Wheeljack. And I think as of doing this video, some new promotional posters have come out with some updated CGI of Wheeljack as well, who he's okay. I have reservations, but another time. So Rhinox, 6-step conversion between his beast mode and his Gatling gun, or chain gun, either. I will have a link to the Battlemasters video for Rhinox as well. Wheeljack will take 11 steps of conversion between his robot mode and his vehicle mode. Should be very interesting to see. So, from the packaging perspective, now that we've looked at that, time to crack it open, get these two figures out, and have a better look at everything. And with everything out of the packaging, so we have one little version of Rhinox, who's sporting very much a brown deco this time around. We have Wheeljack, who I have transformed a little bit more after pulling him out of his packaging. And then we also have the manual. So, quickly looking through the manual first, without chopping off people's heads. So the first part of the manual, we'll just look at Rhinox. Won't worry about that too much because we have looked at his individual Battlemaster. In terms of Wheeljack, so it does reinforce that his little back kibble should be attached, not hovering behind his head. And then pretty much the first 6 steps transformation, transforming him into his wagon, and then the remaining steps at the bottom. Not an overly complex transformation. As I said, for 11 steps, it's probably on par with a warrior class figure from Cyberverse. Okay, so that was the manual, which we'll come back to later. Wheeljack, we'll look at you in a minute. Rhinox, I won't spend too much time on Rhinox because he's pretty much just a recolor. So Rhinox is now sporting a bit of a brown motif. He does have some additional metallic here and there, but not too much. His feet are of a slightly darker brown. And because I prepared myself, here is a side-by-side of the Rhinox included with Wheeljack and the Rhinox included as a standalone Battlemaster. And to be honest, I much prefer the deco on the right than I do on the left. I won't spend too much time on this because it's still, once again, it's just the same figure, just with a different deco. So, with that being said, what we'll do is quickly transform Rhinox. So if anyone was wondering, he's pretty much brown through and through everywhere, which is unfortunate. Would have been nice with a little bit of colour. Okay, so that's Rhinox quickly transformed into his weapon mode. So that's pretty much what it looks like. All transformed. It is all brown. It's a little disappointing that they couldn't have had a little bit of colour separation. So quickly do the same thing for other Rhinox. Okay, so looking at the two together, yes, the Battle Master, definitely visually more pleasing. Just those extra color apps and things like that really do go a long way. Now, in terms of Wheeljack equipping both of these, yes, I'm literally going to have him equip both. Now, can he underslung this one? No, because you have things in the way. Of course you do. Okay, so that is Wheeljack sporting 2 Rhinoxes. So this one here is the Battle Master. This is the one that is included. So not too bad. He's a bit of a handful right now. Can he actually stand on his own 2 feet holding both? Yes, he can. That actually is pretty cool. I will probably take some additional pictures later down the track of Wheeljack sporting 2 Rhinox Battlemasters. But this is basically Wheeljack once he's equipped with his relevant weaponizer, so definitely not too bad. So, from a weaponizer perspective, now that we've had a look at that, and as I said a few times before, I'll have a card to the original Weaponizer video. So, Wheeljack. Before we get too involved, let's see if I can just reset you somewhat. So, Wheeljack from the front, side, the back, the other side, and a bit of a close-up of your head and torso. It is nice that the Autobot insignia has a bit of red on it, just to make it pop out a bit more. In terms of colours, so Wheeljack, at least this version of Wheeljack, is pretty much brown and beige. A bit of silver trimming, a bit of blue, the red that I mentioned for the Autobot insignia, and some more blue on his back. It's funny that the Autobot insignia for his vehicle mode, however, is not painted in red. Now, being a basic figure, I wasn't expecting colours everywhere. It's unfortunate his wheels will also be in the same brown that his plastic is in, so not black unfortunately, definitely grey, not grey, brown, sorry. Definitely keep that in mind. Overall, it's not too bad. Has a little bit of detailing, given that he's a Autobot as opposed to a Maximal. Pretty much your standard robot detailing. I think the Maximals have probably got a better end of the stick in terms of detailing, which I think is very cool. Anyway, what do we have for articulation? So Wheeljack actually will be able to do a full 360 with his head, and that is about it. There won't be any tilting up and down, unfortunately. It's just pretty much just a swivel at the neck joint for that 360. So he can look left, he can look right, and that is pretty much the extent of his articulation in the head. As for his arm, we'll do a nice 360 because of the ball socket right there. Arm will somewhat go out to the side like that, if only because of the shoulder hinge there. The arm will still go out to the front like so, out to the back, once again because of that 360 in the shoulder joint. And his arm does have a 90-degree elbow bend, so it can go all the way out straight and out to the side. Because it's also a ball socket, it can also swivel around as well. So surprisingly enough, these Weaponizer figures actually do have a decent array of articulation. His hand is fixed, so won't be expecting too much out of that. I have noticed that part of his little vehicle mode can stick out like that, so he could have actually underslung one of the Rhinox weapons, but it would have looked very awkward because of that. So there is that. Now, if you really wanted to, you could also extend his arms out like that because of that ball socket, which once again just gives it a bit more range of movement in the arm. So surprisingly, his arms are not too bad. Just lift those up a little bit. He does have a waist swivel. It will be a 360 if you just unpeg the back bit. Speaking of the back, it does tuck away quite nicely, so it's definitely, you know, fairly neat and tidy in the way of kibble. In fact, I can't really call it kibble because, as I said, it does actually tuck in neatly and it doesn't really jut out in a very painful and horrible way. As for his lower body, 45-degree split, unfortunately, because he will start colliding with bits of his waist. His leg, however, will be able to go all the way to the back like so, and can go all the way to the front like so. And with the leg like that, he will be able to do a bit of a, well, in fact, he can actually do a full 360, well, a bit of a side split, because this section at his upper leg will actually not bang into anything. So there you go. If you want to do a full split, pretty much have to do it off to the side as opposed to the front. So once again, ball sockets coming to the rescue for some articulation. In terms of his knee, so if I raise the leg up, so he does have a 90-degree within this top section of the knee. Now this lower section of the knee is also a ball socket, so he can do that nice 360 rotation there. So that's actually not too bad. So between the knee bend at the top of the, well, more within the upper leg than the lower leg, and that nice little 360 ball socket, the leg actually has a decent, well, potential decent array of articulation. Bottom leg's pretty much solid, and as for his foot, there's no real movement in the foot. You can untab it ever so slightly to get a bit of foot movement, but by untabbing you may compromise some level of weakness within standing him up and things like that. So overall, I'm pleasantly surprised. So he does actually have a decent array of articulation. How it works, I'll find out later down the track, and whilst that won't be part of this initial review, I'll definitely have some points about it, I'm sure, on Instagram when I do the post over there. Okay, 11 points of transformation. I am not going to do a live transformation just to save on some time, so I will transform Wheeljack into his vehicle mode, and then we can have a quick look at that, and then I can pose some final thoughts based on what I've seen so far. And with Wheeljack now in his vehicle mode, so wasn't too bad a transformation, just a lot of swiveling things here and there. There is a lot of tabbing just to try and put everything together, which actually works pretty nicely, so he does actually feel somewhat solid, which I guess is very good. So Wheeljack from the front, and I'll say it now, and I suspect it's because of these two bits there. He really looks like he has a face. I can't remember the name of that kids' TV show, which was obviously with all sorts of animated vehicles. And no, I do not mean Transformers, where they all had like faces on the front and everything. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. But yes, that's the vibe I get with those two rectangular bits there. That he pretty much, those are his eyes, his unpainted Transformer thing is his nose, and his grill is his mouth. Yes, pretty much ruined that for a few people, I'm sure. So that's his front side of the van, the back, the other side, from the top, and the bottom. Yes, his head is there. In terms of articulation, so his wheels will move independently, so not the best of moving wheels, but they do move indeed. So he'll have that. As I mentioned in his robot mode, because it's the brown, it will look a little bit weird as opposed to being black, but there you go. It's unfortunate that he doesn't have the Autobot emblem on his vehicle mode painted in red, although to be honest, if you really wanted to, you probably could paint it red. Will that worsen the weird face on the front of his van? Who knows? But overall, the vehicle mode's pretty nice. I'm quite interested to see what his deluxe figure is, and in time what his Studio Series figure will be. I'm still very dubious towards the figure, well, not the figure, but the character, given that it's a significant departure of what we saw Wheeljack as in the Bumblebee movie. But that's probably for another video. So, had a quick look at his vehicle mode. Colors are pretty much the same as what we saw in the robot mode. Transformation was quite intuitive. I could have done it as a live transformation, but it was just easier to do it off camera and whilst not recording. But it didn't take too long at all, which is very nice. So it is actually quite intuitive. You don't need to use the manual, but definitely not too bad for 11 steps. I definitely am feeling it is on par to some type of warrior class type of figure. So that is pretty much Wheeljack's vehicle mode. So put him there. Now, I guess if I quickly bring back Rhinox. Now, Wheeljack does have some points of connection. Would I put Rhinox there in his Gatling mode? Probably not, just because it will look really, really weird. I mean, given that it's pretty much right on his side. Yeah, it's not practical is probably a good answer. But that's the two of them together. In a way, I can see why this Rhinox has been kept in a bit more of a brown. But yes, it is unfortunate. You could use a bit more colour. So that is Wheeljack and Rhinox. So I'll bring that together. In fact, I will bring Battlemaster Rhinox here as well. Okay, final thoughts. From a robot mode perspective, visually not too bad for what type of equivalent class Wheeljack is. He's not super detailed, but he has enough there. Paint apps is pretty much on par with what you would expect for a figure of this non-main class. The articulation was actually quite surprising. I wasn't expecting him to possess what he actually does, but time will tell as to how practical it will be for dynamic posing. So overall, he's actually not too bad on the robot mode as a figure. Rhinox won't mention too much about, just go look at the Battlemaster review for Rhinox. As for Wheeljack's vehicle mode, to transform him to his vehicle mode wasn't too bad. It does tab together quite nicely in the end as well. So for 11 steps, as I said, I'm going to start classifying him as a warrior class figure. Definitely wasn't too bad at all. It's just enough to get you through, wasn't too difficult, and yeah, it was quite fluidic. His vehicle mode, it's pretty average. There's nothing to really write home about. I think the only thing that I find off-putting is just the fact that if you look at his front, it does look like it has a face. But other than that, it's a solid vehicle mode. It's not terrible. Probably could use some additional color apps. But other than that, yeah, it is what I would expect for a figure of this class and price point. As a 2-pack weaponizer, I'm going to fence it as to whether I could actively recommend it. Now, I will admit, for the Rhinox side of things, I would actually recommend just get the individual Battlemaster. The paint apps is worth it. It is nice that the 2-pack includes Rhinox, which is very nice. It's nice as a gimmick line, but the lack of the color apps, I think, is diminishes some of the selling point of the 2-pack. as for the Wheeljack component of it, once again, I'm not overly disappointed with the figure. I'm actually quite surprised with what it can do. To my comment earlier about the changes of Wheeljack from the Bumblebee movie to Rise of the Beast, I think that is where I'm holding some reservations as to how his character grows in the movie, which possibly means I will retrospectively like him more post the movie. Time will tell. So I think some of my unease, concern for his radical design change between the two movies is probably influencing me to not strongly recommend this 2-pack. But at the same time, that's also a bit harsh and judgmental because as a figure, he's actually not too bad at all. So from a 2-pack playability, I think the 2-pack is a good investment between the two figures. I mean, if Wheeljack is essentially a core class and Rhinox is a battle master, and even as a core, not a core class, a warrior class, that would have been about, I would say, between 20-25 Australian dollars, maybe, given inflation is now a thing to try and contend with. The battle master was already 15, so the two of them together would be more than it is to get the 2-pack, so I think there's some value there. So really, at the end of the day, it comes down to, is it something you really want? Do you appreciate the playability for what's there? Potentially, you are still a fan of Wheeljack, despite his new incarnation. Or you'd rather get this 2-pack to get yourself a Rhinox Battle Master without having to buy him individually, and then don't mind repainting him. To be honest, I think if you repainted him, you'd probably get some more mileage out of it. I think they do have the exact same brown coat, to be honest. But just, yeah, I think they're the exact same brown. So it's just really the feet and the silver that needs to be done. And you would definitely get a nice version of a Battlemaster Rhinox. So overall, if you like what's included, I would say go for it. It's not a bad figure whatsoever. And for the scale, I think the Autobots actually might look better than the Maximals for these 2-packs. Prime actually wasn't too bad. So Wheeljack, despite my dubious nature towards the reimagining of his character, overall it's not a bad 2-pack. So I'll just say, personal preference, do what you feel is what you want to do. So that'll bring us to the end of the unboxing and review of the 2-pack Beast Weaponizer, Wheeljack and Rhinox. It's definitely been a fun little 2-pack opening. It's unfortunate that Wheeljack has this little cloud of weirdness around him. I think if there was a 2-pack of Mirage, he'd probably be the same. They're probably the two most contentious characters of the movie. But once again, it's just because of, if you've been a G1 fan, you definitely understand the contention for Mirage. And then for everyone else, it's just a case of the reimagining between two movies is quite significant and weird. But anyway, maybe I'll do a video about that at some point down the track, who knows. But in terms of this, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching this unboxing and review video. Feel free to leave a like or comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel and I do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram account, link to that below, and I'll also have some parallel shorts and extra content on the community tab in time, so definitely keep an eye out for those. Stay safe and take care, and I will catch you all in a future Rise of the Beasts video, potentially, or something else on the channel. See ya.